Hello, please feel free to stay off camera, on camera, whatever serves you today. We are going to look at a lot of slides, so I will be on the tiny box to the right, unless you want to put me as a speaker view. I am Patricia Garza, I'm the Net 10 Program Director. Hello, beautiful faces that are joining us here at Network of Ensemble Theaters, NET. I'll do a brief visual description of myself, just because I'll be the main person talking in case people need transcription or description support. I'm a Latinx human. I have short, actually now salt and pepper hair, black salt and pepper hair. If you've been on this journey with me over a year, it's gotten a little bit more gray. And I have new big square glasses, in case you've seen me before on these Zoom spheres. And I'm in my office here at my house, and I have many books behind me, and I'm wearing a teal sweater today, and I have a little locket on. I use they, them pronouns, and I want to start us off always with acknowledging the land on which I stand, sit, play, sleep, eat, and acknowledge the indigenous peoples who are the traditional stewards of the land. So me personally, I am zooming in from Tongva Quiche land, here known as East Los Angeles, California. So it's about lunchtime for me. And if you'd like to participate in a land acknowledgement today, just go ahead and do so in the chat. We would love to bring in all of your communities here with us today. That would be awesome. And if you need a resource, we can I could drop a little link in the chat for you all. Let me just do that. Perfect. I want to do just quick access checks for folks, logistics. We are recording, like the announcement said, for future viewing. So if you missed something today, we'll have this up on our website and our YouTube channel. So don't fear. we are recording. The chat is enabled, so feel free to throw questions in the chat. I can't see it as well, but Nicole, who I will introduce shortly, is on it. So she will interrupt me if something urgent comes up. Or you can feel free to just speak yourself into space and let me know there's something I need to pay attention to. But we can see the chat after. So if you do private DMs, just so you know, we can't see it. And if you need a transcription on the bottom ribbon of your Zoom, you can click live transcript, and that will pop up some captions for you if that's something that you need support with. So we're here today to talk a little bit about Net 10 in general, but we're going to really deep dive in the exchange grants. So I'll take a pause before we deep dive in the exchange grants, so that way if people have questions about just Net 10 in general, we can go ahead and handle that, and then we'll go into the exchange grants. So I'll go a little bit into what our agenda is for today. Welcome, we're here, welcome. This will run about an hour, a little bit over, depending on questions. So feel free to, again, move in and out of the space as if needed. We'll talk about what is NET in case you're totally new to NET and you just heard about this through the grants. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about what Net 10 is. I know this has been a long-standing program, but it's been a while, so we might need some refreshers. We have a deep dive in exchange grants, like I said, and we will be doing deep dives of each grant. So exchange, travel, and continuation. So we'll have info sessions very similar to this one for each one, where we go over the questions and everything. So just so you know that. But if you want to think ahead, we will go over a little bit today. Then we're going to really look at every single question on the application, because I really want to support you all through this process. So I'll talk a little bit about what we're looking for, what we've heard from previous panelists, et cetera, et cetera. And this fancy new platform that Nicole built with her very hands that I'm so excited to unveil. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll have time for Q&A. And, and I'm here. So if there's things we can't answer right away, or for some reason we want to, time is running short, we'll go ahead and answer those via email as well. So don't worry, we will get your answers. All right. So who's in the Zoom room? So me, you all know, hopefully at this point, but I'm here to help with anything Net 10. So all these grants, I'll be your main point of contact. And then Nicole, if you want to give a little wave.
Hello.
That is Nicole, our finance and operations manager extraordinaire, who would really be the point person on anything with the application in terms of the technical side. So our joint email is on the screen, net10@ensembletheaters.net. Yes, both Nicole and I get the email. So you may from time to time see us both respond. And it just depends on, like, again, if it's a technical question about the application, Nicole will probably respond. If it's more content, I probably will respond. But we're both here to help you with everything, because Nicole's been around too, so she can help you with content as well.
Patricia,
and then travel,
we just have one question. Is that okay?
Please.
Okay. Someone has asked, do I understand correctly that we must first apply and receive a US only exchange grant before applying for an international travel grant? And that's actually incorrect. What it is that you can have US or international for your travel grant, but if you have a travel grant that was international, that's the only way you could have an international exchange grant. Please let me know. Feel free to type more if you have more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. You said it beautifully, probably much more clear than I said. So yes, travel grants open very soon, March 1st. We're going to get more information on the website as soon as we can about that application, and then continuation grants April 8th. So lots of time to think about. The only more pressing one is the exchange grant. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's see. I want to take a question pause, just like what Nicole just did, so that way we can clarify anything about, because before the next section is really moving into exchange grants. So I just want to give folks, if you're here for travel or continuation or curious, I'm not sure what I should do, I would love to just have a moment. You can put it in the chat, you can raise your hand, you can just shout it out. Let's see. Oh, here's one. Okay. So April, is the question, you're talking about the international? Is that what you're talking about? I just need to clarify, because if you're talking about just a general exchange grant, they do not need to be tied to travel grants at all. We're only talking about that with international partners specifically.
Okay, so if you have applied for a travel grant that's not international and you want to apply for an exchange grant, also not international, but with a different group, that's okay.
Totally fine. Yeah, they don't need to be related at all.
Cool. Thanks.
It could be a new idea. It could be the same idea. Any other questions before we move on to deep dive? Okay, great. Moving on. Exchange grants. So these grants range from $3,000 to $10,000. Yay. The activities must occur in the US. So again, even if, I'm trying to not like confuse people with this international, but even if you have a partner, the activities must happen in the US, unless it's that little caveat. And then they're only awarded once a year. So again, I want to acknowledge we've been offering a lot of different grants that are called different things. So remote connections, mini grants, virtual explorations. So we're now getting back to our cycle of traditional, if you will, net 10 grants. So we will only be offering exchange grants once a year. So I just want to say that out loud again. And again, all about deepening existing relationships through shared activity and peer-to-peer learning. So we'll talk about what that looks like. So the goals of the exchange grants can fall into two categories. The first one is artistic or technical production or exploration. So this is, again, building on an existing relationship. Maybe you want to deep dive into methodologies, techniques. There's building a shared work together, working towards a co-presentation. So tours are not required, but you can include them in here. So I know that's been a question that people have asked in the past. So that would be more like an artistic exploration, I would say. If it's more about a show, swapping techniques, swapping methodologies, that would be more the artistic side. The second one is administrative. And that one's really about operations, management. Maybe there's something you're curious about, how somebody runs like a non-hierarchical leadership model. Maybe there's something about, oh, this group does a really cool way of consensus based decision making, and you want to learn from them. That's the second option. So that's more like administrative development exchange. So they're really designed to allow lead applicants and partners to take risks, to take financial risk, right? And to explore something beyond what they are doing. So really capitalize on these collaborations, and so that it can propel these partners and the lead applicant into kind of a something they couldn't do otherwise, right? That's the idea of the grants, to provide that support. So these are the two goals, and they'll be on the narrative questions as well. In terms of who is eligible to apply, this is all on the website, so I'm not going to take like a super long time to review this. But again, let's remember that little infographic. It's ensemble members. So first, good standing, then ensemble members. You do not need to be a 501. Yay. Again, this is all about access. So you do not need to be a 501 to apply. The lead applicant and the project partner must be able to receive grant funding in the US. We are a US-based company. So an organization can only be listed on one exchange proposal. So that comes up quite often, even in our virtual exploration grants. People were, oh, I'm on 2 or 3. For these ones, because of the scale of the funding, we are asking folks to only be on one proposal. And then lead applicants and their partners can only receive one Net 10 grant within the cycle. So again, exchange grants are a year, travel grants typically are every 6 months. Because of the pandemic, we morph those a little bit, so we only have one offering this year. But that means, for example, I don't know, say you picked a, let's just go back to this game designer. This game designer I really want to work with them, and I'm a Net member, but Nicole really also wants to work with the same game designer. They have to only be on one proposal, okay? So I just wanted to say that out loud. And we can suss that out too. It's not like you have to email the Net universe and know that, but we will on the back end call your attention to that if that comes up. Or you can always email us and say, hey, has anybody talked about applying with this person, etc. Also, I really want to highlight this because we've been really trying to be super open to grant reports. We totally understand people are really struggling right now. So we've been a little lenient on grant reporting, but unfortunately, you have to have all your reporting up to date in order to be eligible for these grants. So that also includes the remote connection mini grants, which we still have outstanding reports for. So virtual exploration, if you look at the timeline, those are still open. So those, you don't panic. If you have a virtual exploration, they're not due yet. So those are fine. So if you have an open virtual exploration grant, we're not talking about that. We're talking specifically previously funded Net 10 grants or remote connection mini grants. All of those reporting deadlines are past due. And we really need to get that shored up before you can apply for another Net 10 grant. Very simple process. I'm happy to work with you on it. We'll try to make it as painless as possible. So reach out to me if you have any questions of whether you have an outstanding grant report or not. The specific thing for exchange grants that's actually, I think, really fun and cool is that it's really supposed to be designed to be written and submitted jointly by your partners. So as the lead applicant, you're the Net member in the ensemble category, but you do have to name your project partners. So they must be named. And we have a little form that you fill out for each project partner. You could even have multiple project partners. And this must be an outside relationship. This is really important. So again, sometimes we see people say, well, my ensemble member is out of state, but I want to exchange with them. That's not really outside of the ensemble, right? That's still insular. So the idea is to, again, push past those boundaries, explore something new, deepen a relationship that you've been wanting to excavate. So it's outside. So we say here, right here, right? An ensemble member in a different region would not be eligible. If awarded, both the applicant and the project partner are considered recipients of the grant. So again, we just talked about this, but then they are not eligible to apply for another net 10 cycle, another net 10 grant in this cycle. So again, this game designer is amazing game designer. I get an exchange grant with them, yay. They then can't get a travel grant, for example. So I just want to say that. And we're really encouraging this to be a reciprocal relationship. So each partner should have an opportunity to learn, dialogue, exchange, and really should be part of the larger grant project and the time frame. It doesn't have to happen the same way, you know, it's this line here at the bottom. So somebody could be sharing a leadership strategy, an administrative model, and then somebody could be teaching dance technique, for example. That's an exchange. They don't have to be tit for tat, right? Yes, okay, good. Just read my notes, making sure I cover everything. So some sample activities. These are just brainstormed. Some of them are on the website as well. These are not the only activities. These are just a small smattering of ideas that we put together to help you all start thinking. I really encourage folks to take a look at past recipients. I'm going to put a link in the chat. Just click on it. They have really short little descriptions of what they've applied with in the past. You could just take a peek at that, get some inspiration. I'm also going to share in the chat this our shareback library. So we'll talk about this, but in the reporting, we are asking folks to share with the field. We're really prioritizing field learning, as we talked about in our mission. And so take a look at these sharebacks. You can click on the left nav there. You can actually see exchange grants. You can see net 10 and get some ideas of what happened. What did people learn? What were they going for? But it can range for again, shared work, technical exploration, leadership structures. It can really be wide ranging. And again, here I want to pause and say again, we acknowledge that travel or some things that take a lot of COVID precautions may not be the way you want to go right now. So we invite a hybrid proposal, like maybe half the timeline's online, and then we'll see right in the fall if we can get together, that kind of thing. So the budget could reflect maybe a mix, right, of both. This is on the website, so I won't go in too much detail, but this is really what we're going to give the panel. This is a peer-reviewed process, which we'll talk about. But the grants are really reviewed and explored through the lens of quality of the exchange. So is this an exchange that's really fruitful? Is there really like mutual benefit here? We see clear learning goals. The relationship is going to be super deep after this. It's amazing. They're going to be collaborators. Also, we'll talk about this in one of the questions, but does it help the organization financially? You know, is this something that can really be leveraged in a way that they didn't have before? We're again talk about community. We'll talk about this in the narrative questions, but can this project be shared with the field, like this learning, right? This thesis that this particular exchange grant is exploring, can it be shared to the field? And then, of course, again, centering ourselves in equity practices, we'll be asking a question around your equity practices and your approach to anti-racism and anti-oppression. And I highly, again, recommend folks to read our equity and funding statement, which I will put a link in the chat, and our accountability statement, which is relatively new. So folks may not have seen it before. So this is our equity and funding. So I highly recommend people take a look at that. And just so you can see where NET is holding ourselves accountable, and also the language we're using around equity. And that's our accountability statement. So all of these selection criteria is equally weighted during the review process. So obviously, please answer all the questions because the panelists will need all that information in order to make an educated decision. Final reporting, this is more like an FYI. Obviously, if you're awarded, we'll go over this again. But once the project is complete, both the lead applicant and the project partner are required to submit a final report, again, jointly. So there are very specific questions for the lead applicant and for the partner. So it's not like, great, we did that, I'm never going to talk to you again. And I mean, ideally not if it's a successful exchange. And develop this share back component. We do withhold 20% of the grant funds until this reporting is complete. So that's really, really important that it gets done in a timely way and it gets taken care of. And I'm happy and a resource, and Nicole's a resource to brainstorm. Oh, I just don't know what my share back should be. I don't know, you know, we're here. And then obviously we already talked about this, so I'm not gonna go over this too much, but just if you have outstanding reporting and you do not complete this final report, you're not eligible for future funding. So the how-to section of our website under exchange is super important to take a look. This is where you can preview all of the narrative questions. You don't even have to click on the application yet. You could just see the questions and think about them before you get that like blank cell and you're like, ah. So go here, take a look. I also click on the budget template. We'll take a look at that. Look at the details for the partnership letter. There's a lot that needs to be kind of thought about and gathered before you even go into our platform. So don't rush to go into the platform. It's a little bit of prep work that I always encourage folks to do. There also is some very small narrative adjustments. So if you've applied for exchange grants in the past, I highly recommend just give it a good read and not copy paste from old applications, because we have adjusted the narrative questions just slightly. So just read carefully. You do not need to be logged in. I know in the past, we used a different platform to log in. You don't need to be logged in to use the application. But you see my pointy arrow? You cannot save your work. I'm gonna say it 500 times. When you go into the application, you cannot save your work. So we strongly, I don't know, Nicole, how we can underline this. We strongly recommend, please save a draft, please. We want this to be easy for you. We don't want you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Shero, and I'm the Finance and Operations Manager at the Network of Ensemble Theaters. Today, I'll be taking you through NET's new and updated grant application portal. While the application questions and requirements are largely the same, some important parts of the website itself have changed, so let's take a look.
Unlike with our previous portal, you cannot save your application on this website and edit it later. If you complete the form and submit it, we will receive your full application. If you navigate away or close the browser, you will lose your work. Therefore, I would suggest that you prepare your answers ahead of time in a separate document and then copy and paste your responses when you feel ready to submit. We'll start by taking a look at the How to Apply page on NET's website. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of one of these documents to store my draft in. For the Google Docs version, I'll just open this, go to File, Make a Copy, and then save this in my personal Google Drive. Here's my draft application with all of my information in it. I have my partner letter and budget PDFs ready to upload, and I'm ready to submit this proposal and be done. First, I'm going to navigate to our new application portal at net10.ensembletheaters.net. Please note that you do not need to log in to submit your application. Simply click on the button to get started. And here's a list of the same warnings that I'm providing in this video for you to keep in mind. The most important thing to remember here is not to use your forward and back buttons on your browser to navigate between the screens. Use these directional buttons here to go back and forth. I'm going to pull up my pre-populated document here and copy and paste my answers. And if you have formatting issues, this is the button to reset your formatting. I recommend trying to keep formatting light, as it will make your proposal easier for the panelists to read and understand. For each partner, I'm going to be sure to click that Add Partner button and enter in their details. Then, I'll attach my partner letters, which have been merged into a single PDF. Next, I'll copy and paste my narrative questions, remembering that if something looks weird, I can highlight that text and press this button to clear all the formatting and start over. Finally, I'm going to upload my completed budget and press the Submit button. When I check my email, I'll have a confirmation from the system letting me know that I saved successfully and I can take a break. And that's it. If you have any questions or difficulties with the new application system, please reach out to NET staff at net10@ensembletheaters.net. Also, I'll put a link in the description for more information about the exchange grants and where to apply.
All right. We're going to breeze through these narrative questions and then open it up for Q&A. Again, we're aiming for 90 minutes. If you need to jump off an hour, we totally understand. I just really wanted to take time because it was coming back into this process. So we're going to look at each narrative question, and I'm just going to share some helpful hints that the NET team has created over the years that may be helpful to you to think about when you're putting together your proposal. And I won't go into too much detail because this will be available on the how to apply section, but just thinking this through, we talked about this already. What's the main goal? There's either number one or number two. Is it artistic or technical, more production related, or is it administrative related? Try not to stress. We're not going to like lock you into it. If it kind of is a hybrid, that's okay. Just pick the one that you feel best describes like the majority of the activity. If it's like, oh, we're going to do majority admin and then I might do a performance for them. Okay, that's fine, but it's majority admin, not artistic, etc. Just, select which feels like the bulk of the activity is covered. Then we're going to ask you to just describe the project. Detailed information, skills, techniques. What is the specific exploration here? Let's be very clear what everyone is offering as part of this exchange. So for example, just like throwing out a sample sentence, right? I'm the lead, Patricia Garza Ensemble is the lead applicant, and we're providing Nicole Shero Ensemble classes around my dance methodology. So amazing. It's about community-based dance and healing. And the exchange partner, right, Nicole Shero Ensemble is going to be offering me a roundtable discussion around consensus-based organizing through a community lens, as an example, right? So really specific, what is the project? What's the exchange? It's really about relationship building again. So we're not really interested, like if it's a play, try not to put like, a huge description about the storyline. That's really not actually important to this particular grant. I mean, yes, we would love to know a little bit about the process and a little bit about the themes that are going to be explored, but we don't need to know, the past previous productions of it or anything like that. So just tell the story about this particular exchange, this relationship building. And then, what are the steps around this relationship? We're going to be doing it through, we'll talk about timeline too, but we're going to be doing it in this way, right? What's the shape of it? So that's some helpful hints there. Then rationale. Why this partner? Why now? These are really big questions, right? So I love this, it's one step past the dating phase, right? So this should not be like, oh, I talked to this person once and I'm curious to know more. This should be like, I've worked with this person several times and we just are so excited now to have a longer stretch to really deep dive into my dance methodology, right? And their administrative support. So let's be very clear here. And again, this moment, I think particularly coming out of the pandemic, why right now? This could be a number of reasons. Maybe it's a rebuilding, maybe it's a renewal, maybe it's, oh, we actually did a lot of digital work and now we want to move to online, in person, that type of thing. We met through the pandemic, or whatever it is. Then we do want to know about your history, your collaborative history. So what is your relationship with this partner? Have you co-created before? What is the interactions? Again, going deep here. And if we have travel grants, if it's not an existing relationship. So I just want to put that out there as well. So why this partner? Why are they important? What's your previous collaborations? And then a schedule. So given our project dates, which are right here again, and also on the timeline page, what is the way you're going to structure your time together? Just getting a sense of the scope. Again, try to veer away from things that are too vague, like, oh, we'll do some rehearsals. It's like, well, what does that look? What shape does that take? What is the relationship going to look like? Flesh it out a little bit for us. But you don't have to provide like, on this day, here's my agenda. On this day, here's my agenda. It doesn't have to be that specific, but I think just a few more details about, and then we're going to do a public thing, and then we're going to do, like really get into like a little bit more about the details. Those are what make a little bit stronger applications. And of course, if the activities fall outside of the project period, that will be taken into account. So make sure that they are outlined appropriately. Then we're going to ask about what you're hoping to gain from this experience. What's the impact on each of the partners? And again, you're jointly writing this, so each project partner can speak to this. But if it's exploratory, how's it going to impact you long term? What's going to change as a result from participating in this? What's going to be learned that maybe is interesting or useful to the field? Like maybe my dance methodology, I'm really experimenting with it, and now that I have this other piece from my exchange, I can really share it out wide, or I think it's really great for youth ensembles to hear about what I'm doing, for example. How are you thinking towards your community and in the field at large? And then this financial stability question, just be, the funds are really about, again, trying to support risk-taking, exploration. So we put some examples on this slide around what you could say around financial stability. So maybe this opens you up to additional funding. Maybe it's putting you in a different budget size so you're able to apply for another grant. Maybe it's like, I'm going to use this to say, hey, we got this Net 10 exchange grant. Fancy donor person, can you match it? Or can you help me support it through a different way? So really just think about how this may help your organization grow and be a little bit more move towards stability. And then again, what we said, we've been hinting at it the whole time, and now here's a direct question. How does your work, your ensemble, and your proposed activities really reflect NET's value of equity and inclusion? So how are you moving towards anti-racism, anti-oppressive practices? think about diversity in a broad sense, you know, what maybe it's an aesthetic, maybe it's the way you work, maybe it's the makeup demographically of your company, maybe it's about the partners that you're working with and the access they have to arts or performance. So we're really looking at how both the partners and the lead applicant are answering this. And then just be honest. I think come and speak from your heart. I think we've learned anything that we all have to have a starting place. So really speak to where you are right now with this question. And I, again, cannot say it enough. Please read our equity and funding statement and our accountability statement. That will help you just understand kind of where NET is with it. And I think some of that language might be helpful to folks in terms of how to respond to this question. We also ask about community engagement. I want to really highlight this one because it's different from previous cycles. Because of COVID, we're not requiring folks to do a public sharing. In the past, we've kind of encouraged more of a public facing community sharing, but we still care about community and field learning. So there is a question on the application regarding how you and your partner are going to engage with your communities around this project. Again, some of these can be a public facing component. Maybe it's a reading, an informal sharing, a workshop that you're going to offer, but it could also be digital. It also could be, maybe I'm going to present at a conference. I don't know, you know, so think about that. And this question is tweaked. So when you look at the application, just keep that in mind. Yes, and the idea is that it really reaches a broader audience outside of you and your partner, right? So this learning, this exchange is now being shared. And that's partly the share back, but also we're going to ask you how you're going to integrate that into your project with your partner as well. So just want to call that out so you can start thinking about that. Then we have the budget form, which again is on the website. We try to keep it super simple, no match, yay, yay, yay. So in terms of expenses, we can flash it, but I think everybody can get it on the website. So I'm not going to go over the template in super detail, but just use those columns to detail out your project budget, indicate who's paying out what, right? Because your partner may have certain things that they're paying out. Also list your in-kind sources as well. And then you can adjust this budget. I just want to say that I think people tend to be like, it has to fit this categories, it has to fit the description. It's just a template. But we do ask to really keep the formulas in place because that'll make your life easier later down the line. So, but you can adjust the descriptions and the columns, but keeping the formulas in place would be really helpful. And then we have a note section. So that's a catch-all section for you to say, okay, this line item means, oh, there's 5 people getting an honorarium at this rate, right? So I know budgets tend to be really intimidating, but we try to keep the form super simple and the formulas are already built in. So I think it should be relatively simple to fill out. And again, Nicole and I are here if you need support. So eligible expenses for exchange grants, this has all of them listed just as a quick ref, but we're looking right here at this middle column. So just calling out, you see these beautiful X's here. This is not intended for international travel. Again, with our caveat that if you've gotten a previous travel grant or visa fees, this is really important because we get a lot of questions around this, around equipment purchases and professional development. So like, I want to have me and my partner attend the TCG conference. That's actually not an eligible expense. So any kind of like pre-existing public facing workshops and trainings or festivals or conferences are not eligible. So that's something we get a lot of questions around. So I just want to kind of say that one out loud. And like equipment purchase, like capital expense, you know, I think people know. In terms of the income, oh, did I repeat this? Or did I go backwards? I think I went backwards. Sorry about that. So the income, you can just show where the income's coming from. If it's this grant, this is grant. The project income must equal your expenses. So that's really important because, you know, we want to make sure that you're mirroring, right, what the expenses are with your income down below. And I'll show the form. I think that might be helpful. And then again, just use that note column for anything that you feel like we need clarification on, etc. Let me flash the budget. I think that might be helpful. I don't know if folks had a chance to take a peek at it. Can everybody see this? Great. Yeah, so what I'm talking about with the columns here, so here's the note section here, a place for in kind. And again, is it you expensing this? Is it your partner? If you have a couple partners, who's expensing it? And then this is all formulas right here. But again, you could change these categories. And then down below saying you can put in different sources here and how you're getting them. So I hope that the form's pretty simple, but again, Nicole and I are here if you all need support, let us know. All right, move on. Okay. We go into a panel review process. I won't go into too much detail with this, but just, we invite 5 peer panelists from the field to review these applications. They make recommendations for funding to net staff for us based on that selection criteria we went over. And there is a pre-scoring process, and then we review together. And then we do change the panelists per grant. So it's not the same panelists looking at exchange, travel, and continuation. It will be different panelists for each grant. And that's pretty much it. Thank you all for listening to me talk. But I know we lost a few people, but any questions, anything specific? Bye, thank you. Anything specific that you want to ask about your own project, the application, the platform, and again, this recording will be available later as well. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Nice to see you. All right. Well, if you all feel comfy, I think we're going to go ahead and call it a day. Again, net10@ensembletheaters.net is the email. If you have any questions, we really look forward to reading your proposals. So reach out and have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you. Great. I love to see you working on your report. Yes. Bye, you all.